All right, thank you for staying with Daybreak. I see some of your feedback coming through at Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Daybreak. One of them is wondering directly to Dr. Patrick Omondi, how then do you ensure there's no double counting, especially at the border?
Yeah. Yes, that's an important question, Trevor. I talked about total aerial count, and I talked about dividing the ecosystem into blocks, and making sure that the blocks are flown with different aircrafts at the same time. And then you'll be able to download using technology the same information to a GIS database and be able to tell. Because, for example, if it is elephants and it's a group of 7 seen on the line, it will be very clear. And I hope I was able to showcase it, how it's done by the technical experts. So double counts, we are able to eliminate. And that's why the process of data cleaning also takes time to ensure that it doesn't occur, and we have the accurate numbers. We were lately introduced cameras. We also take photos, so that apart from the GPS point, apart from the voice, we also take camera, and we will be able to tell from these 3 sources whether it is the same herd or a different herd. So the experts, and I think Kenyans will get an opportunity to join some of the censuses so that they can learn how wildlife is counted. It's so different from how we count human beings. So apart from the total aerial census, we also do sample counts, particularly in expanse ecosystems where we have never done census before. In northern Kenya, like Wajir County, we plan to stratify the ecosystem, and again in a peer-reviewed methodology where we sample through aerial in a manner that it can give you a baseline data on what exists in areas we've never done census before. That's why this census is important. Then in forest ecosystems, our teams will actually use methods that they walk inside, do transect inside in peer-reviewed methods. I cannot describe them here. Do the data analysis and extrapolate the numbers, and that will give you a range of how many, for example, elephants you have in the Aberdares, Mount Kenya, in Cherangani, what do they have in Cherangani forest? Because from those forests, you cannot do a total aerial count because you cannot see in the air. So men have to walk inside. So that will be the 3rd method we'll use. And then we'll deploy camera traps to see the species range, like the pangolins. You know, the species is highly traded, and we have never had a baseline data for pangolins. So we'll deploy camera traps because they're mainly nocturnal animals, and we'll be able to capture and design them in a manner that at the end of this exercise, we should be able to come up with the relative distribution and relative numbers of pangolins, and that will be the first of its kind, probably in Africa. Nobody else has done it. So this is coming in very handy, and my appeal is that where we are going to do ground counts, because for aerial counts, there are experts already trained. We'll be partnering with the Department of Remote Survey and Remote Sensing. We'll be partnering with the National Museums of Kenya. For the marine systems, we want to work with the Kenya Marine Fisheries. They are experts, all the government agencies. At the end of it, we'll have a national wildlife data that can inform decision making moving forward.
And that's the marine one is interesting. How will you count marine life? Forgive my basic understanding. Are people going to dive?
There are marine elephants also. There are big marine. We talk about dolphin. You know, people go view dolphin. We've done a marine census in 1997, and I think you can solve the video. You'll see the dolphin. You'll see the whale sharks jumping up the water. And it's an aerial count. There's a specific time that it has to be done. and they're experts of marine life that have designed ways of counting marine life, and we are going to adopt that methodology to ensure that we update the 1997 census so that we give Kenyans the numbers of marine life in the country.
Edwin, speaking of strategy and transformation in the KWS area, and Waziri also mentioned it, in terms of, you still have tickets, paper tickets. People still come in with paper tickets. So what is the plan for that? It's a 2021, there must be a different way of doing things.
Yeah. Thank you, Waziri. And what Waziri just mentioned, and thank you, Trevor. You know, we began a transformation journey, and Waziri mentioned some of the things that we're actually doing in this transformation journey. Yeah. And of course, our Director General has been spearheading this. Yeah. The focus is to look at these 10 parks that Waziri mentioned. And so we are having something called the Kenya Parks Initiative. Yeah. And so in looking at these 10 parks, we want to see how do we improve accessibility? How do we improve viewability of the wildlife? How do you improve the experience of the person coming into the park? And so part of the starting point has been, how do we improve your cycle time? Yeah. You shouldn't be spending more than 3 minutes to get into a park. You should be able to go online, register your own details, have your own information. When you come at the gate, whether we'll be using a QR code or something, just that allows you to quickly go in. And we are in the process of doing that. We are in the procurement process. We are buying a new system, supported again by government and partners that will enable you to actually have an easy access into the park. And so we anticipate that before the end of this year, we will be digital in terms of our entry into the parks. Yeah. And this digital aspects is not only in entry into the parks, actually also goes to other parts in terms of our performance. For example, in our security operations, we've now moved, we are moving from the analog radio system, the digital radio system, that we are able to communicate. The rangers just do much more than patrolling. Yeah. They can actually be able to send information. Yeah. This information is useful because, one, it will support in terms of building the numbers and knowing where some of wildlife movements are. Two, even for our visitors into the parks, in terms of viewership. As Waziri mentioned, sometimes you, and it's interesting that sometimes you see our visitors, they want to drive into the park at high speed, do a circle, and get out and say, I have not seen wildlife. And so we're looking at giving them an experience. Yeah. And if you give me a chance, we'll speak about this Zuru that we're doing campaign. That we're basically seeing how do we enable you from your phone. You can actually be able to know your routes in the park, the sightings that you're going to see. You know, nowadays we say, umeona kichwa, umeona pembe. So now give you another experience that you don't have to be asking. From your phone and driving into the park with Wi-Fi capability in our park system under the Kenya Parks Initiative, that you're actually able to now communicate and experience yourself. And so that the experience you get from visiting our parks and each of the parks will be very unique, but very exciting. Yeah.
Wi-Fi is one of the things you're talking about. That is in the works as well, because I know connectivity in the parks has always been one of the biggest challenges.
Yes. We, as part of Kenya Parks Initiative, I said we will improve the experience of the customer. Yeah. We will improve the viewability. So for example, like Nairobi, which is our starting point, you will notice that there's a lot of infrastructure works going on in Nairobi National Park. And we just want to thank Waziri and also to thank the Tourism Promotion Fund, because we have additional funding now to be able to improve the network. You'll be able to drive into Nairobi National Park using your big car or your small car and experience. But then we've realized that the customer of today is very interesting. They want to be able to be sharing on Instagram as they are going into the park. Yeah. That, you know, I'm here in Nairobi National Park, come and join me and experience it. And so we're working with the various partners, telecos, to try and see how do we put the Wi-Fi capability within Nairobi National Park as our pilot point, and we hope to extend this to the other parks, so that as you come with your friends and experience in the parks, you can be able to share live what is going on from your own location in the park.
Okay. In fact, Trevor, I want to add here. Yeah. The experience you go now in Nairobi National Park, even despite we have not concluded the program, is much better than 2 years ago, both in infrastructure, the roads, both in experience of seeing the animals and even the accessibility at the gate. You don't take 1 hour anymore. It's much easier where there are people to assist you, despite we have not gone to the digital system. But what we want is that, like the way you buy Kenya Airways ticket, you key in your name, you say what park you want, you pay online. When you go there, it's like a boarding pass, QR code, and you just walk in. Within a minute, you are in. So those are the things that we are changing. And then we are getting, for example, now we are in discussion with Safaricom, doing a 5G facility in Amboseli, and then put cameras there live on Mount Kilimanjaro, and let the whole world view. And how do we partner with Safaricom, and how do we partner and raise money in terms of marketing and promotion and be able to generate money for KWS? And these are the discussions that we are having with Safaricom.
Brilliant. And Engineer Lanzaro Kanyamboki is saying CS Balala should come up with the best method of marketing tourism sector to the locals to encourage local tourism. Their current strategy over depends on European markets, leaving out indigenous Africans.
Actually, the whole model of remodeling is that the model before was safari and tourism was for the international market, was not designed for the local market. And that's why we speak about remodeling. And not only Kenya, the whole world has realized that they have a market that is hidden at home, which is called the local or domestic market, and nobody has tapped onto it. And we tried. I started this program almost 10 years ago. It has not really reached to that peak, but we are getting there. And that's why during the lockdown last year, we got many Kenyans to go out. And we want many Kenyans to, and then we are telling the whole business community in the private sector, please appreciate. First, not because there are no clients from international market, but have a product for Kenyans or for the domestic market so you can benefit and have an additional market share. That's why I said, when you do remodeling, it's about discovering new markets. It's about, again, experiences. Experiences is not just about going and viewing animals. It's about the food. It's about the people. It's about history. Technology, like what Wanyonyi had just mentioned. On your phone, you don't have to discuss with anybody. And even you can take a picture of that animal if you don't know it. On your phone, you can get the whole narrative of what type of an animal you have just taken a picture of. And that is the experience we want to bring to our clients. And it doesn't matter, you being local or international, you get the same experience like everybody else.
And Wanyonyi, I'd like to hear your views on what Engineer Lazaro Kanyamboki is saying here on Twitter in terms of the tourism sector focusing more on the European markets, leaving out the indigenous Africans. At the end of it all, you have to also draw a balance, right? Because you want to tap in on both markets. And you mentioned something to do with Zuru, which is a Swahili word to begin with, right?
Yes.
So what is the strategy going forward to ensure that you don't leave out the locals, but also the international community keeps coming still at the same time?
Thank you. Historically, of course, we've had a high opportunity looking at the international market. And from a KWS perspective, there's good reasoning to it. If you look at visitation, and let's take an example of Nairobi National Park. An international guest to Nairobi National Park would pay $43. A Kenyan today would pay 415 Kenya shillings. Of course, looking at visitation versus revenue, and as I said, from a strategic perspective, you want to be able to raise money to pay bills. And therefore, from a strategic perspective, it actually made sense to actually continue looking at the international visitors. But there are a couple of things that have happened that now have changed that approach, starting with the COVID-19. And of course, the realization that our market also has now potential. We have very many people. People now are planning their holidays in advance, unlike before. Like, for example, when you're coming to the holiday season, all our bandas in the parks are fully booked. In fact, one of the challenges is that we do not have enough accommodation in the park system to provide for that. And so in terms of our approach, we have now domestic marketing strategy, which is aligned to what the ministry has already prepared. And our approach has been that we focus on the Kenyan market. And remember that East African citizens are considered local citizens. So they enjoy the same benefits as the Kenyan citizens. So we have our domestic strategy. And so we've come up with this word, Zuru. And so you have seen Zuru na KWS.
Yeah.
Zuru Amboseli. Zuru Mount Kenya. Because we want people to connect. Zuru means to us is tembea, safiri, experience. So we want the locals to experience this. And let me tell you, we've had some very amazing success with this, and we are hoping to grow on this. For example, you know that we had Mother's Day.
Yeah.
And so we had Zuru na Mama. It's amazing how even old ladies who were brought by their families, they were saying, tumekuja kuzuru na mama.
Yeah.
So we want to continue that same approach.
Yeah.
We're also having other incentive schemes in place. Remember, if you look at the normal hotels, sometimes they might be too pricey for our domestic visitors. We have camping sites available. Yeah. And so we've actually improving the experience on the camping site. For example, again, we go back to Nairobi. We have a number of camping sites. We're improving the aesthetics and the ability of people to camp in those places. We're also making it possible for you to be able to get into bandas. So we're changing the name from bandas, which is historical, to Zuru homes.
Yeah.
Because you want to Zuru and experience home. Home in the park. You can cook for yourself, you can carry your meals, and come with your family and enjoy what we have. So our new strategic focus is the domestic market, and that includes Kenyans and the East African community states. But we know that with time, this is one of those markets that is resilient. It will sustain us. Yeah. But of course, we will not forget about our international markets, because that also supports in ensuring that we raise additional revenue to support our
But based on the data, even if you just focused on Africa alone, you would still raise enough revenue, right?
We will raise significant. Yeah. And remember, in terms of our marketing, we are aligned with the ministry and KTB. So what we want to do is, as we mobilize the local, create these numbers, we also now look at all beyond the East African region and go to the other areas. And so beyond this COVID, we are looking at new things. For example, Nairobi Safari Walk, you will try to see that it's going to change. We were experiencing new wildlife into this facility. And so that we just give that domestic visitor. First, this wildlife belongs to us as a people. We want to connect. Second, that you can actually be able to bring your family to experience the same in our parks. And so this is the new approach. And so even for you, Trevor, Zuru, Nairobi National Park.
But you see, Trevor, 85% of our revenue in KWS is foreign tourist payment.
85%.
85%. Yeah. So you cannot ignore that market. Yeah. But also we want to create, or we want to go into the local market as well, improve it. So every day is not about, we don't want it to be expensive. Yeah. People need to pay for the services. For example, our premier parks, if you want to go during high season, and now what we want to do is seasonal, when you want to go during high season, when we see there are too many people, you need to pay a premium to go in, or you have to wait for the low season. That's normal in business, and that's exactly what we want to introduce. But we want to be sensitive to Kenyans because this is their asset. We want to be also cognizant that we have a market around us which is regional. We want to capture into that, but it will not be done overnight. It will take time. And this is where the problem of Africa. We have 1.3 billion people. If we target only tourism to travel of 200 million people, already Africa will be actually doing very well. Currently, Africa only receives 63 million people internationally. Yet people who are traveling. So if we use our own intra-travel within Africa, that already is almost three times of what we are getting international. But again, it's about connectivity. It's about, again, purchasing power. So all those dynamics matter in saying, I want to target Africa. Yes, but again, the dynamics, you need to address those dynamics.
But this experience that you speak about during the launch, I think you were at Shimba Hills. I saw you saying that if there are any new animals that are supposed to come, then it has to be a cabinet sanctioned decision. Is there a plan to do that, to enhance experience?
First of all, we want to regulate, and that is under government and cabinet. We want to regulate. So if you want to export any animal, you need to go through the scientist, Yeah, you need to do all through the, anything goes wrong, then we know to trace where the problem is.
Yeah.
So you cannot just wake up and say, I as a conservancy or as a private company wants to export animal or import animal. You cannot do that. Because these animals are national heritage and belong to the people of Kenya. So there should be a process. So if people want to bring animals into the country, we have to know which ones. Would they bring diseases? Would they affect the ecosystem? Would they be able to survive? All those issues. And we will actually depend on the scientists to advise us. Yeah? And then when we have that trace of what is required, then cabinet goes to approve it. Because it's not easy just to import animals or to export animals without using the proper procedure.
Are you thinking of importing some animals?
No, we're not thinking about importation. But definitely sometimes you get distressed animals overseas and they get, we are requested as a government, can you take them? For example, the northern white rhino were imported from Czech Republic. So, but that process, again, do northern white rhino and Olpejeta belongs to Olpejeta? No, belongs to Kenya. But again, we are partnering with Olpejeta, and we are doing everything with Olpejeta concurrently to make sure those animals are in safe custody. So those procedures need to be rolled out by the scientists.
Okay. All right, and the scientist is here. How complex would that procedure be? Because I'm envisioning a situation where we could have a tiger, for example, here in the country. What would the process be like?
How do you know that you're going
to be Yeah, we have had tiger before in Nairobi Park, you know, for education and research, because tiger is not indigenous to Kenya. We have had chimpanzee in Nairobi Park, the famous Sebastian Kenya associate with. Not indigenous, but just for people to appreciate, you know, some of these species are very close to humankind. It's basically for education and possibly research in our orphanages, which are not zoos, because then we do not allow breeding. So enhancing the product and experience Edwin was talking about, with the proper procedure, proper government request, we can bring in tiger, why not? But it needs to be a process of approval, because assessment has to be done as a secure space, and just to take care of the ecological need. And the age you need to determine, and because it's coming into, for education, it means it's coming to an enclosure. So the process is not hard, but we also have rare endemic species. You know, like the roan antelope in Roma, which number less than 20. And we also have mountain bongo, and we have some in zoos. And there are processes, what Waziri is talking about. If we want to enhance the numbers, not through normal breeding, then there's a process of getting the same species and try to breed them, so that we grow our numbers for the rare endemic species to a level that can sustain the generation of that species for future growth. So we have an elaborate system. There is a standard operating procedure. The only thing Waziri is saying, you don't wake up and say, I'm bringing in chimpanzees to Kenya. There's a process.
In fact, like the antelopes, we have the sable antelope, the roan antelope, the bongo, the sitatunga. All these are endangered in Kenya, but they are not endangered globally. So, for example, we can work with Tanapa next door. How do we bring the sable antelope or the roan or the hirola, for example? So we bring them in, but they have to be a protocol that animal or that species do not also affect the species that is existing. So that's exactly what we are talking about. You don't wake up and just say, I'm importing this. You want to do it, or we want to do, again, you have to explain why. And we have a clear process that we want to do. Currently, even now, even you want to relocate animals or elephants, you need to follow procedures. You can't shortcut, otherwise things will go wrong.
Okay. There's a question here that I'd like to hear from you and Wanyonyi as well. Ezekiel Mwadime says to CS Honorable Najib Balala, the elephant in the room is that KWS Kenya waking up and be more vigilant with a vibrant 24-hour surveillance and response system. The late response has costed lives and loss of property in Taita Taveta, but we do love our animals. That is what is concerned about, the response time.
That's why I said human-wildlife conflict should be on the top of the agenda.
Yeah.
Currently, it's about anti-poaching and illegal wildlife trade. So we are trying to raise that element because we understand the plight of people in Taita Taveta. It's a hotspot. The people in Meru, the people in Baringo, the people in Kajiado. Yeah. These are hotspots, and we need to address. As I told you earlier, the way we respond when an animal is killed, we should even have the better zeal to respond when a human is affected. Yeah. Currently, it's vice versa. We respond when an animal, because it's international publicity, which is negative. Yeah. And because they're endangered, because they're iconic, they get publicity. That's why we are saying, I think we need to value humans at the same time. Yeah. That's why we need to increase our human wildlife compensation fund. We need to seriously look at the mitigating human wildlife conflict. We need to get international funding for issues of corridors and issues of benefits for communities so that we don't lose the goodwill of the people on the ground, like the people in Taita Taveta. We can't afford to lose the Taitas' goodwill in conservation because they matter the same way the Maasai's matter in Masai Mara. Yeah.
Wanyonyi, what is the challenge here? Because Ezekiel Mwadime says that it's the response time for KWS that is really bothering them. They say their late response has costed lives and loss of property, but we do love our animals in Taita Taveta. What is the challenge?
Of course, the challenge is the vast nature of the areas that we must be able to respond to. Yeah. Remember, we have presence across the country. Now, for you to understand that challenge, you need to know that we are responsible for wildlife in the entire country. If a lion happens to come to your house, we must come and respond. But having said that, what are we doing differently? What we've done differently is the Director General has set up a problem management unit. Yeah. This is now an agile, active unit that now is able to respond to more of those serious cases. For example, in the Savo, we're actually placing a unit in that direction so that in any of those cases that come through, we're able to respond. And you know, sometimes it's interesting because we receive all manner of cases. We have a call center that all calls come in. Anything that is cited comes in. We also end up getting some fake calls on the call center. So we respond to an area and then we find there was no issue. We then again get another call to another area. So one of the things that we would like to appeal is that when these cases, when an incident happens in an area, please, they should be able to get in touch through our toll-free lines. But also we have our presence in all these areas. We have our wardens and ranger units in those areas, and we'll be able to respond. At the moment, our response rate is above 90% on all cases, but our intent is to actually move it to 100%, that in all cases of conflict, we will be present. But beyond just responding, what are the other things we are trying to do to actually help reduce this challenge? One is through our ministry, the support of getting some funding. For example, in where we have issues of challenges of resources like water, we're looking at how can we develop a water project together with the community so that then we reduce the conflict with getting into the wildlife areas. The second one, we are looking into the areas where we have challenges where there's agriculture. We are building fences, again through the support of government. We are building fences so that we minimize that conflict. So we're looking at all new ways and robust ways to respond much more efficiently and on timely basis. And as Waziri said, of course, we have a directive. We will respond with the same zeal about our wildlife when there's a human case involved.
Dr. Mondi, this is what part of the census you're talking about, the count to conserve, because then you will even know the movements of the animals and where they are in real time as well. How would this help the issues that Wanyonyi and the team are facing?
In fact, in addition to counting, we have been deploying satellite collars to then monitor the movement of long-ranging species like elephants, lions in real time, so that it can inform now management in real time when it goes out of the park, and they can then respond. And part of the investment in this during this census is to deploy satellite collars for carnivores, large carnivores, elephants, and to help in tracking. It will help in security, and also it will help in human-wildlife conflict control, which is a big issue. The other thing is that when our results come in, you'll know what is where and at what numbers. It will also inform diversifying the wildlife products. Like Waziri talked about moving one species from, maybe we have few zebras in Nairobi Park, and we want more. We should be able, for example, from our data analysis, be able to inform there's a process, or we can move a few giraffes from here to this especially if we do the north, where we still have expanse areas, we can still inform movement of animals so that we do not overcrowd in one area and expand and give animals more space to move on. So it is a very key thing. It will have a baseline, of course, just like human, there will be need for a repeat, maybe after a 3-year cycle. And I think Waziri is conscious of that, that at least after this census, we plan to see what we have after.
But just out of curiosity, Dr. Mondi, how will this data be presented? Because then it also poses a security risk. If I know where all the elephants are, so do the poachers.
Of course, the elephants are not static. You can sight an elephant in a spot in Amboseli, and they can move 350 kilometers in one night. 350 kilometers. Okay. But to counter that, I think, and that's why technology is very important, our men work 24/7, and our anti-poaching has been #1. So I don't want to talk about what is done, but I think the results will come out. The government, the CS, will handle the data release. That is the protocol. And once it's out, maybe the time the data is being released, the animal will still be within Amboseli ecosystem, but they could have changed their movement patterns. But we'll still be on the watch on the poachers, which we are doing very well.
Yes, how will you weigh that? Because it is true, when you give, will you make the data public? If you do, then everybody knows.
Well, first of all, we have an obligation that we make our information public. That is our tradition, and we don't hide. Secondly, we are also very strategic on what goes out, because the information can be used against us as well. But definitely, as he says, we use many methodologies to make sure that the information is not used to destroy what we have achieved. But I want to congratulate Dr. Mondi and his science team, KWS as well. They've done a great job. In the last 3 years, I can tell you there's a major, major improvement. Program like Zuru would not have happened. The experience that you have in the Nairobi National Park, it would not happen. I mean, the taming of anti-poaching would not have happened. These happened in the last 3 years because we want to think out of the box. We need to take responsibility ourselves. The way Paula loves animals, the way I love animals. The way, Mordecai cares about conservation in this country, Balala loves and conserves as well. And all of us in KWS also feel for this. I can tell you, when I came in, I was not a conservationist. But today, I believe I'm a conservationist because I feel. And it's people like them, Patrick and his team and the DG, has actually made me feel and appreciate what wildlife and their rights as animals as well. So whatever we do as government, or we as KWS, or we as the ministry, we are doing it in the best intention of getting things better than they were before. If we continue this way, the same old way, actually KWS will collapse. It's not sustainable because the numbers are going down, the costs are going high, and the demand of challenges, which is human-wildlife conflict, and again, other challenges are on our neck.
Yeah.
So we must change our methodologies. We must move forward. For example, we are supporting community conservancies.
Yeah.
There are almost 170 of them. The way they are managed, sometimes, most of them, are managed even better than KWS parks. So why can't we get improvement in managing some of these parks as well in Kenya?
Yeah.
So we have an intention to improve as much as we can.
Yeah.
But I want to make it very clear again, we are not selling. We are not privatizing national assets.
Yeah.
We are just looking for partnerships so that we can make it even better.
Yeah, and this partnership is open to everyone, because I see Damaris Nyabuti here is saying, how come the partnerships are geared towards a certain race, she calls them? Does it mean Africans are not good enough for conservation?
But Trevor, this is a new thinking. We have not even gone to the processes.
Yeah.
This is just thinking out of the box. We want to do it. There is a PPP law in there. We will involve, will be a public participation.
Yeah.
There'll be more processes. We are not going to wake up today and say, we are giving Mr. Smith Nairobi National Park. No. But also there are sentimental parks that we need to keep ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah? I mean, the 10 parks initiative that we want to manage them better.
Yeah.
But if we can get somebody to manage, to co-manage, not to manage for us, to co-manage with us, and we can even generate more, why not?
Yeah.
For example, if the sites that we have all over, I'll give you an example. The sites we have in Savo East and Savo West can hardly get 500 beds total. Yeah? But they're beautiful sites that are undeveloped. They're not being taken. Ask yourself why. We're not expertise in real estate or be able to sell sites. There can be people who can sell those concessions.
Yeah.
Why don't we partner with those people? The more you have good quality participants, you will also get more quality tourists in your area. I mean, if I look at Savo, I am really sad, because Savo used to be the iconic national park in Africa, not in Kenya, in Africa. The man-eaters, the lions of Savo, they're all famous. Yeah. Masai Mara just came the other day, but Savo was the park in the continent of Africa. But again, we focus only on poaching. We forgot about management. The ecosystem, that's why I said there are 3 pillars. One is remodeling. Second is technology. The third is environment and sustainability. Yeah. Look at Savo today. The degradation of the environment is pathetic. And it's not done by humans. It's done by climate change. It's done by, again, our iconic elephants. They are called engineers because they come and be destructive in that ecosystem. We need to manage the destruction of elephants in these ecosystems so that we can improve the experience and the product in these areas.
All right. I have to take a quick break here on Daybreak. When we come back, we take closing remarks. We're really running out of time here. I see some of your questions. I'll pose a few of them when we are back in just a minute.
I hope we have...